Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast. So I just sat down and got my 6 thoughts together because this week has gone by so quickly, and I didn't even realize it was Friday until basically just now. But I got my 6 things now, so let's get started. Number 1, I wanted to give another update on my work in progress, which is Firmament Humanoid, the 7th book in the Firmament series, and I am actually supposed to be finishing that up today. I had set a goal of 45,000 words because that's about how long the last couple of books were, and I set it to finish today, but I'm very close. I actually broke 44,000 yesterday, so I'll have no problem getting to 45 today. But the story is not going to be finished. There's still quite a bit left, actually, still a few chapters. So normally my books end up being kind of shorter than I prefer or expect. So the fact that this one's turning out a little longer is actually kind of a nice surprise in some ways. But of course it is just going to expand the amount of time that I need to finish this. But I actually am going to need a few more days before I'm ready to start editing on Eleftheria anyway, so I can hopefully use those few days to maybe wrap up the writing on this, because I really would like to just finish it up while I have some momentum instead of taking a break on it, because it is really going well. I definitely feel like I've continued to, once I got over that kind of difficult slump, I've really hit my stride with it, and I'm really enjoying the story. I really feel like it's coming together well, and it's been fun to write. Other than that, one kind of dry spell, it's been great, and I think that I could push through to the end fairly easily right now. So I'm hoping that I can do that in the next few days. So I guess I'll let you know next week if I've been able to finish it. But number 2, I mentioned that I do need to start work on editing Eleftheria. So I'm sorry, I think I said Humanoid is book 7. That's actually book 8. Eleftheria is book 7, and that's the one I'm working on editing and getting out pretty soon here in the next few months. And so I actually did receive feedback from 2 of my beta readers over the past couple of days, and it's been really encouraging. Both of them had a few notes, but honestly not many. And it's always nice. That's why I find it really helpful to get that, third-party feedback, because when I was writing it, I fully expected, this is horrible. I'm going to have to overhaul this entire thing, whatever. And then I hear from some other people that haven't been mired in it for months and years, and they're like, oh, this is good. I enjoyed it. It just, often the parts, it often goes both ways. Sometimes the parts I thought were best don't resonate so well with people, but sometimes the parts that I fully expected to have to completely dump end up way better than I thought. So people have seemed to enjoy it so far, and haven't had a lot of feedback from me, honestly, just a few things. And then even my husband, I'm almost done reading it to him. I have, I think, 2 or 3 more chapters to read him, and even he hasn't had that many. He's definitely had some thoughts about things that could be improved or that are confusing, but not as many as I expected. And he is pretty picky when it comes to stories. He's pretty good at picking apart the pieces that need it and the things that don't make sense and don't ring true. He does have a talent for that. And so I feel pretty confident in the fact that the last few chapters he's kind of been like, no, seems good. He definitely would tell me, and has, when there are things that are off. So it's been really encouraging. I'm thinking it's going to go more smoothly than I expected, which is always really nice. And so number 3, I was going to just give a little overview of my editing process that I follow for each book that I edit, because I have a pretty specific process that I do, and it's worked really well for me. Obviously everyone is different, but I just thought I would share. So what I do first, once I've gotten all my feedback from readers, whatever I'm gonna do, I actually print out the entire book on paper, and I put it in a binder, and then I take that and I just take a red pencil and some post-it notes to it and just go crazy. I mark it up, any things that need to be moved, things that need to be changed, things that need to be taken out, small things, big things, like I make notes on it. And I usually basically always end up changing the chapter breaks. And so I'll figure out where those need to go, just like have no mercy, go at it. Anything that strikes me that needs to be changed, change it. So then I take that binder and I actually put it next to my computer and I type out the whole story all over again and making the changes as I go. And I just found many years ago that works so much better for me than trying to take the document and move things and change things within what's already typed. Because it's just, I actually find it a lot less overwhelming to type it all back out, because it just, you get kind of a bird's eye view of the story, I feel like, by just going over it again, so in depth. I feel like it helps me catch more things, and it helps me just be able to change things as I go along rather than go into something that's already there and move things. It just feels cleaner to me, and I feel like, again, I catch more things. And honestly, people are always surprised that I do this. It sounds like it would be harder, but I just find it easier. I just find it an easier way, especially for big changes, especially if a whole part needs to be rewritten, or maybe the order of things need to be switched around or something like that. I always end up with problems with time. So for instance, there might be a day where the people go to bed, 4 hours after they've gotten up, and then they have another day that's like 37 hours long. They might eat breakfast twice. Like, I always end up with stuff like that because I just don't pay attention as I'm writing the first draft, which is fine, but I obviously have to go back and change it later. And so stuff like that, I also just find easier to correct as I'm kind of rewriting the whole thing. And then once I have that, I'll go through and do smaller edits, just kind of go over it with as fine a tooth comb as I can, catch. And a lot of times in this round, I'll try to read it aloud to myself so that I can catch things that just I wouldn't notice sound weird when I'm just reading it in my head. So for instance, if I use a word twice in the same sentence, or if there's just something weird like a sentence that doesn't flow well, or maybe I'll notice that it's confusing who is saying, a particular piece of dialogue, just things like that I'll catch better when I read it aloud. So I just kind of go over it, as in-depth as I can. And then I get to send it off to my editor, who's a really good friend that's been editing for me for years now. And he's really good at catching things. And he also, since he's a good friend, he'll be kind of funny in his notes sometimes. And it usually ends up making me laugh also, which is great. And so then once he gets it back to me, he has, all his notes or his changes marked in ways that I can either accept or reject it. And I would say I accept 95% of his changes. But then sometimes I'll be like, no, I really do actually just want it to stay this way. So then once I go through that, then I get to send it off to my formatter, who's another really good friend. And because she has done all the Firmament books, she basically can just plug each book into the layout that she's already done. So super easy for her. And then as I've already mentioned, I've got my cover artist going on the cover, and it's coming together great. He sent me a mock-up just a couple days ago, and I need to get back with him on that. So, and then of course, once it's all my files are set, I get to put it into the Kindle website, which is, you publish both Kindle and paperback on the Kindle website for some reason. And so I get to put it all in there and then hit publish. So I'm excited about this one. Like I said, my readers have all enjoyed it so far, and I think others will enjoy it as well. But then because I'm also writing book 8, I'm getting excited about that one too, and it'll be a while before I can publish that one. So it's just been fun to get back into the series again. It's been a while, and I'm really enjoying revisiting it. Number 4, I just wanted to share a little fun sort of anecdote. So I mentioned my 3-year-old daughter, Violet, before, and she is very into spelling lately. It's been so fun. She doesn't know how to read, but she knows how to spell her name and a few other words. So she knows how to spell cat, she knows how to spell dog, some of the really normal basic words, but she also knows how to spell joy, because we saw it everywhere, in people's yards and stuff over Christmas, and she was asking what it was, and so I told her, that spells joy, and here's what joy is and whatever. So she spells joy like all the time. She has a little letter magnet she spells with. She'll write things in her, she has a little journal. She writes and draws things in. And then the other day I gave her a frozen coloring page. But instead of coloring it, she just drew letters all over it and wrote the word cat. And she wrote her name and then also just random letters. And she likes to put a bunch of random letters together and ask me what it spells. And so sometimes I just have to tell her, that doesn't spell anything, baby. That's just some letters. That's just some ABCs. But I just love her excitement for it. Like the other day, she was taking little animal magnets that they have, which has the name of the animals on it. And she would look at that and then take her letter magnets and spell whatever word was on the animal magnet. And she would get so excited. And then she also knew, because there's only one of each letter in her magnet set, she could quickly look at a word and go, oh, we can't spell hippo. We don't have two P's or whatever. And I just love watching, like I said, her excitement for that, watching her grow and learn. And it does make me think that she may be an early reader like I was, which would be really fun. And so, once she gets just a little bit older, I'll probably start working a little more intentionally on the reading thing with her. But for now, she's just so motivated to pick up things for herself and ask me questions about how to spell things. And she knows all her letter sounds. So I love that she just has fun with it. And it's not like some sit down and do school thing, but she's just exploring, and it's just another way to play to her. And I think that's just the greatest. And number 5. So for my currently reading, I did my thing where I go across my bookshelf from left to right, and the next thing happened to be a Stephen King book that I bought many years ago, and it's a collection of some of his shorter stories, because I heard that often those are a little bit less creepy than some of his normal work, a little bit less horror, and I thought that would be a good way, because I know he's, supposed to be one of the best writers out there, but I'm pretty sensitive to like horror, things like that. So I thought that would be a good place to start. And it's got 4 different stories in it. And so I decided to start tackling that one. And the first story in there is The Shawshank Redemption. And I've seen the movie years ago, but I tend to forget movies when I've only seen them once, so I don't remember a lot of details, which is kind of nice. So I'm enjoying reading that. I'm already like more than halfway through. So it's definitely, even though it's short, it's like a novella. It's not a short story. And I read, I'd say about half of it in one sitting, and it just pulls me in. Like, it's just, I really enjoy when I can pick up a story that just propels me forward, and I don't feel like it's work having to read it even. It's just, I'm wanting to read more, and I'm like, if I have some spare time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to read some more, because not all books are like that for me. And especially as I get older, I find that it's harder sometimes to keep my attention, because I guess I have so much else to do, or maybe I've already read so much that sometimes, I don't know, I feel like sometimes then things that were once new to you now are kind of older. I don't know if that makes sense. But regardless, I always really have so much appreciation when a book can keep my attention that much and keep my interest and keep me really wanting to come back to it, because I have a lot of things I could be doing, and if I want to be reading my current story, that is huge. And so I'm enjoying it. It's pulling me in. But one thing I'm finding really interesting is that so far, and I'm assuming this is the whole book, because like I said, I'm more than halfway through, it is mostly narration. Like it's and I knew from the movie it was from the perspective of another guy in the prison, kind of seen through this other character's eye. It's kind of one character story seen through another character's eyes. But then actually in the book, it's all, in that point of view character's head. And so anyway, instead of like taking you through the story with different scenes and, dialogue, it's taking you through just by this other guy telling you the story. And I normally would feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times that is discouraged, in writing classes and things like that, to have too much narration, because it is harder to get you into the story, because you're not seeing like sensory details, and you're not like, you don't feel like you're seeing it as it happens. Like it's more like someone else is telling it to you. And again, like the cardinal rule of writing is that show, don't tell. And so you're literally telling the story instead of showing it. And yet, of course, obviously it's a famous story and he's a great writer and he pulls it off. And like I said, it's pulling me in. And, he does still give a lot of details, but instead of seeing the scene unfold in front of you, you're seeing this character's perspective of the scene, and that tells you something different too. Like it tells you how these things look to someone that's been in prison for a really long time, and it just gives you a different perspective than you would have if you were just watching things unfold or if you were seeing it from the perspective of the newer prisoner. It's just an interesting choice, and I'm very interested to pay attention as I go through to what is making it work, what is making it not detached or not seem too like bird's eye view and seem like you're really close to the story, even though it's being told rather than shown. And again, there are still plenty of details that are kind of shown through him, like relating a memory, and he'll relate plenty of the details. And then also one thing that I'm noticing is he'll give you like frequent little hints about the future. Like as this guy is telling the story, he'll be like, and it wasn't until 1955 that I realized the significance of those words, or whatever. It'll kind of give you these little glimpses into something coming next, and I think that also helps propel it forward. And because it keeps you, kind of hooked, like, oh, so what was going to happen in 1955 or whatever. And so I think it's a good technique, but you want to be careful, because if you do it too much, then for one thing, I think it can kind of lose its effectiveness, but then also you don't want to reveal too much, because then you'll miss out on surprises in the story. So I'm curious to see how he pulls it off in the rest, and just to learn. I like learning, obviously, from other writers, and obviously works for a lot of people. So number 6, last night my husband and I watched the movie The Upside, which came out I think in 2017. And back when it came out, everyone was telling me it was a great movie, and we just never got around to watching it. It wasn't streaming anywhere for a long time. We never got around to Redbox while it was there, and so anyway, we just didn't watch it. And then last night we wanted to watch a movie and saw that was on Hulu and decided to watch it, and we both really enjoyed it. Like, it was just a really solid story, really enjoyable, funny, dramatic, interesting. And so I was, of course, looking later. I love to look at all the trivia when we watch something, and found that it was very loosely inspired by a true story. Like, kind of the basic bare bones of the plot were true, like the main idea of it. But it was all the details were totally changed. And honestly, it was very Hollywoodized, but not in a bad way. Like, my husband and I were talking about it afterwards, and Hollywood, obviously, lots of problems, lots and lots and lots of problems, but they do know how to tell a good story. I mean, not always, but there is a level of craftsmanship there in their storytelling that just works. And we just were noticing as we talked about it, like, it was just a direct, satisfying story, and everything that happened was in service to the main plot. It didn't get bogged down in trying to deal with this or that issue, trying to, it didn't seem to like really have an agenda it was pushing. It didn't, get too mired in drama that didn't really contribute to the plot. Like, it just was a solid story. Like I said, it was satisfying, and everything that came up mattered to the main, storyline. And I just think I can learn from that. Like, it's very easy to, like I said, get bogged down in details or in subplots.